Hello and welcome to Media Week. Ahead, we'll be joined by Mel Dale, General Manager of newspaper industry body The Readership Works, as it launches its new engagement measure. But first, the 8-month-long phone hacking trial has come to an end in Britain, with former News of the World editor Andy Coulson found guilty. His fellow former editor, Rebecca Brooks, was cleared of all 4 charges she was facing. The phone hacking scandal led to the closure of the UK's best-selling newspaper and has cost News Corp nearly $1 billion in settlements and legal fees. But it isn't over yet. The Guardian is reporting that News Corp chairman Rupert Murdoch will be interviewed by police in the near future as part of Scotland Yard's investigation into allegations of crime at the British newspaper division. Well, for more on this story, we're joined by our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek. James, great to have your company.
Good.
Let's get your thoughts on this court case so far, and what about the other people facing court as well?
Yeah, look, there's still plenty to come. You said Rebecca and Charlie Brooks both cleared this week, as was her former personal assistant, I think the head of security at News International there. But there's still 59 other people who've been charged, waiting for their cases. I think 18 separate cases, something like that. So far there's been 11 linked investigations that Scotland Yard have conducted. Total over 200 people were arrested. A lot of them are still waiting to find out if they're going to have charges to face in court. So, yeah, look, as you said, still plenty to come on this.
And what about the implications for Coulson's employer, News Corp? Now that he's been found guilty, is there possible charges for them?
Well, look, a lot of people who don't like News Corp, including, you know, a lot of their competitors, think that there's lots of speculation that will happen. But so far, no. And I mean, Rebecca Brooks was the person a lot of people thought, look, she could be the link between management and this phone hacking. The fact that she's got off means that they just have to start again to investigate that. Management, look, you take them at face value, said they didn't know. They said, look, they should have known, but there was, you know, they said that was a mistake, but they claim, and we just believe them without the evidence that they didn't.
Yeah, and the Guardian's also reporting the London police want to question Rupert Murdoch. There's no sources for this yet,
absolutely. Right? Again, that's that partly wishful thinking. They would love to see that, you know.
Yeah.
They broke the original, or when it restarted the hacking story in about 2011, I think. But yeah, look, that is still just speculation. No reports of, look, Rupert Murdoch's going to be in London next week, but there's no appointment to see the police then. They'll be in Australia later in July too.
Speaking of Australia, there is some talk that Rebecca Brooks might come back and work for News Corp in Australia. How much truth do you think there is to those rumours?
Yeah, you've got to think that's pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, just what she's been through. Is she ready to get back into the workforce straight away? I wouldn't have thought so.
And she got a nice payout.
Well, yeah, she certainly won't be doing it for want of getting some revenue back in the door. But no, it would be very surprising to see her turn up, I think, at all, but especially in the short term.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's move on now. And just this week, in his new book on the troubles at Fairfax, journalist Ben Hills points to the internet as playing a part in wrecking the publishing company. But publishers are still deriving most of their revenues from printed products, despite the large internet audiences. New research from The Readership Works shows the level of engagement that readers have with print products. That's what it shows. Now, to hear about it, General Manager of The Readership Works, Mel Dale, joins us now in the studio. Mel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ingrid.
Why has it taken so long for this engagement measure to appear?
Well, it hasn't really taken that long, is the short answer to it. It's been in development for a couple of years.
Yep.
There are some challenges around how you measure engagement, I mean, not least philosophical. You know.
So this isn't the first time we've talked about engagement, or newspapers haven't?
Magazines and newspapers have variously spoken about engagement in the past, but what's been lacking is a single coherent framework that houses all of the data in one place so that it can be viewed by both the media agencies, who are the buyers of the product, and the publishers who are selling it.
So tell me, are agencies and advertisers being deluged with too much data? I mean, we've got all the Emma stuff, the Roy Morgan stuff still in the market. Now we've got this new measure. I mean, do they welcome this stuff? And what form is it taking, the new data?
Well, you only need to listen to what John Sintress, or read what John Sintress said earlier in the week. He's asking for even more granular data around circulation, for example. So that characteristically, media agencies are always wanting more data. We're under pressure to provide more. Indeed, we delight in the opportunity to provide more, and engagement is an important part of this process.
Mel, you come from an agency background. Will newspaper copies sold and the readership remain the primary data in buying decisions going forward?
They'll remain the primary transactional piece to the puzzle, but in terms of putting together and aligning communications plans with environment or differentiating between a couple of titles who are line ball, then I would imagine that this is where things like the engagement metric will come into play.
What will the figure be? Is it like an IQ number or something, the engagement, and is it the higher it is, the better it is, or what is that actual measure?
Well, it's actually an EQ, but you're pretty close.
Sorry. No, but is it like an IQ, I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. It's called the engagement quotient. That is one element of it. It's an index-based representation of how a particular publication performs against any one of the 5 axes of engagement or any of the quadrants within each of those axes. But we're also publishing the thousands of engaged readers by any one of the variables that are available and what percentage, i.e. the proportion of a title are engaged and along what dimension.
And do you do the values of print only, or do you also have a role in promoting the digital audience that newspapers have as well?
Well, look, we'd like to look at the digital side of things. If we were to do that, our approach would be to work with Nielsen, who are our partners in providing a cross-platform readership metric. They're kind of busy at the moment with the IAB review, but we're very open to porting in any kind of engagement metric that they develop via fusion into Emma, because that's how we see the future of surveys such as these, rather than just asking people more and more questions.
Does this indicate that a print audience is more valuable than your digital eyeballs? There's been a bit of talk about that lately.
Well, look...
Or is it just different?
It is different, and it depends on the objectives, but as a general rule of thumb, I would say that somebody who has gone out and bought a publication is actively reading it, is more valuable as an engaged reader of that copy. What we're trying to do with this metric is actually quantify that and go into not just the behavioural type of metrics, but the attitudinal ones as well.
Do you think advertisers understand the value of print, though?
I think a lot of them have got a very strong grasp of it. That's why they keep coming back to it. I mean, apart from anything else, it moves stuff off the shelves. It's a tremendously powerful medium for telling stories and for...
But the statistics show that they're not coming back, which is one of the challenges for publishers, that their revenues are in decline.
Sure.
So they seem to be mixed. I mean, some buyers are more print than others who think, look, nah, it's all about digital for us.
Well, look, I mean, with the ultra availability of contact points now, not least through digital, but through many other kind of channels where media agencies and advertisers can spend their money, clearly, there's going to be an overall kind of settling out of revenue distribution. But the fact of the matter is that the journalism that's being produced by Australian publishers is being consumed by more people than ever before. So the issue is simply one around monetisation. I mean, I say simply, I mean, it's because that's not a simple thing, but as brands, they're very strong.
You'll also be measuring magazine consumers. Do they have a better chance of survival, in your view, than papers? Magazine versus newspapers.
So it's like publication deathmatch. But I think there's a place for both magazines and for newspapers, in the same way that there's still a future for billboards and radio and cinema. I mean, I'm pretty agnostic on this. I mean, I'm running a research business on behalf of a bunch of investors who happen to be newspaper publishers. I think the engagement metric from a magazine publisher's point of view is going to be a very powerful tool for them, because, as you're probably aware, they've long advanced the cause of their engagement with their readers, and this is actually quantifying that in a coherent manner.
And how do people get access to this? They subscribe to the data? Is it in a little way like the OzTam ratings are sold to ad agencies? Ad agencies can get into this, and
well, it's even simpler than that, really. I mean, if you're a subscriber to Emma, then you have access to the...
So it's not an extra; it's all part of the deal, or whatever.
No, it's all part of the package.
And are we starting to see? I mean, it's getting close to 12 months now of new data. Are we starting to see results from research in terms of advertising gains?
Look,
you can't attribute it to something as straightforward as something.
So you can't hang a dollar value on it, and it was never going to do that, was it?
No, I mean, that's not the point. What our purpose was to create a survey that was future-facing, that collected more accurate data, and were sustainable in that you could establish your framework and then start to fuse other data sets on there rather than having to go out and sort of knock on people's doors at the weekend and ask them squillion questions.
All right, Mal Dale, GM of the Readership Works, thanks so much for joining us today on Mediaweek. We do have to take a quick break, but coming up, reports of private equity interest in 10. We'll take you through it next.